This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hello and welcome back to Movie Review today on Place to Nation Pop Experience. I'm Miranda and I'm back to be your host again today as we celebrate International Women's Day and Women's History Month. This week we're talking about films that highlight women's voices, women's struggle, and women's power. Sometimes in obvious ways, sometimes in funny ways, in quieter ways, and more complicated ways. And this movie definitely falls into that last two. We're going to be talking about I Am Not a Witch from 2017. So, I Am Not a Witch tells the story of a young girl named Shula who is accused of witchcraft and sent to a government-run witch camp. Now, that premise might sound surreal or symbolic, but the film is actually inspired by real situations in parts of Africa where women and girls have historically been accused of witchcraft and isolated from society. So, even though parts of the film feel very surreal, the ideas behind it come from real social issues. One thing that really stands out about I Am Not a Witch is the way that it blends tones. The film is often described as both dramatic and comedy, which might seem like an odd combination given the subject matter, but the contrast is intentional. Some moments are genuinely uncomfortable, while others have a dark, almost satirical humor. You'll find yourself watching scenes that are strange enough to be funny, but then realizing the humor is actually highlighting something way more serious. This balance between absurdity and tragedy is part of what makes the film so memorable. Our main character, Shula, speaks very little throughout the film, though, and instead the story is told and unfolds through observation, watching how the adults around her react, interpret, and project their beliefs onto her. In their eyes, she becomes less of a child and more of an idea of a symbol. And that's where the movie kind of begins exploring something much bigger than just the accusation of witchcraft itself. The concept of a witch camp itself is both tragic and strangely odd. Women accused of witchcraft are tied to long ribbons connected to large spools, and supposedly that's to keep them from flying away, which is, absurd. But visually, it's a powerful image. These women are literally tethered to a system that controls them, limits them, and defines their identity. And that visual metaphor carries through the entire story. Another interesting layer of the film is how authority is operating inside this camp. The people in charge present themselves as this protector, this caretaker, but Shula actually becomes more of a spectacle, and the adults around her use her story for attention and profit and even authority. This tension between protection and control becomes one of the movie's central ideas. What makes I Am Not a Witch so effective is that it trusts the audience. It doesn't over-explain what it's trying to say. It presents situations, images, and characters, and it allows the viewer to kind of sit with the implications of each. It shows how a system of power operates through tradition, through bureaucracy, and through people who convince themselves that they're doing the right thing. There's even an element of dark humor throughout this film, which I'm sure you get, and it makes some of the moments feel even more unsettling. It makes this film kind of linger in your mind long after it's ended. You're not quite sure whether to laugh, feel uncomfortable, or angry. Quite honestly, sometimes you're going to feel all three. At its core, this film, though, is about control, specifically the control of women and about how societies treat women who exist outside their expectations. And now, that idea isn't limited to one place or time period, but throughout history, women who challenge those expectations or just simply exist outside those social norms have often been labeled as dangerous, strange, or threatening. And the word witch has carried weight for centuries. This film taps into that history in a way that feels both specific and universal. This is why, to me, this film fits so naturally into a week celebrating International Women's Day and Women's History Month. And that's because I Am Not a Witch is a quiet film with a message that it is incredibly powerful. It reminds us the ways that society actually treats women, especially in this one, young girls, and how it can shape their entire lives. And it actually asks a question that stays with you after the movie, and that is, what happens when a girl is told who she is before she's ever had the chance to decide for herself. It's important because the stories we tell about women and the labels we place on them have real consequences, and this movie kind of teaches you that. I will say, sometimes labels like that say more about our society than they do about the women themselves, which I'm sure we already knew. I Am Not a Witch isn't a loud movie. It doesn't rely on spectacle or dramatic twists. Instead, it just leaves you thinking. And sometimes those are the films that stay with you the longest. Kind of linger in the back there, as I mentioned. Kind of staying with you. Letting you sit with the implications of everything in this film. So that's today's movie review of the day here on Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. Until next time, I'm Miranda. Please, keep celebrating women who changed the story.